All right, we are live. It is 8:01. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Chuck Gross here. So let's get started. All right. Hope everyone's having a great week. As a quick reminder, I will respect the 30-minute time limit. Get through all the questions that have been pre-submitted, and I'll check for any questions that were submitted through the Q&A portion of the app. And let's get rolling here. Let me just make sure that's on before I fool out myself. Okay, we're on. All right. So our first question comes from Sean, and Sean asks, how sore is too sore to push through a workout? Sean mentions that he was sore the other day and skipped his workout, and that it got to him thinking about how soreness is affecting his consistency with working out. And Sean understands that lifting while sore will affect the amount of weight or reps that he can do. And he's wondering if it's harmful to push through bad muscle soreness, especially when you're first starting out. So that's a great question, Sean, and that's something that you're not alone in facing. Most people that are getting back into lifting or starting lifting are going to face the same problem. So essentially, it's really not a different problem. Like if you take a long break, you're going to face the same issue. So that type of soreness usually comes from when you start doing a movement or exercise that you're not used to doing. I jokingly like to call this the Neo feeling in the Matrix, where it's a scene where Neo is just pulled out of the Matrix, and he wakes up and he has like acupuncture needles all over his body, and Morpheus tells him that he feels the way he does because he's never used these muscles before in his life, and it's basically the same thing. So that's what's happening. I would say that you would need to be incredibly sore before I'd actually recommend skipping a workout day. I'm talking to the level of like not being able to walk or unable to lift your arms and being in actual pain versus soreness. The reason that I say that is because in general, once you start warming up and going through the warm-up movements, you'll start to feel better in most cases. And the reason that for that is that the reason you have blood flow is that it's basically healing the body. So working out, doing weightlifting is damaging your muscle tissue. And the way that you can basically speed up your recovery is get the blood flowing to those damaged muscles. And the warm up, that's its entire point, is to get the blood moving to those areas and warm them up. So if you're sore, the warm up will usually give you some immediate relief. So blood flow equals healing in this case. You may still feel a little bit sore during the workout, but it should be an improvement. So if you warm up and feel worse, just listen to your body in that case. There are going to be days when you have crappy workouts, days when you have mediocre workouts that are punching the clock, and then the rare days are going to be when you have an amazing workout and you're not where you're 100% motivated to work out. Those are going to be the rare ones. So there's always going to be something there that's going to try to mess with that consistency that you mentioned. There is a condition that you can get from doing too much, and it's called rhabdo. And you'll hear this often mentioned in CrossFit, where people are new to the gym and the trainer has no idea what they're doing. And the trainer is like trying to kill them as an indicator of a good workout. And I mean, kill them in air quotes. This usually comes from like too much volume, pushing way beyond what's safe, way beyond pain thresholds. And it's a serious condition. It's like if you're peeing brown, we're talking like agonizing pain in your muscles. That's when you need to go to the emergency room, and you probably want to sue whoever put you through that. So the other way to look at this is, what else are you doing to minimize that soreness and hasten your recovery? Obviously, if you know me, you know I'm going to mention sleep here. Sleep is basically the best thing you could do. There was recently a discussion of some people that are into the science of exercise that talk about if you look at all the things that can improve your health and fitness and all the things, is that sleep is basically more powerful than steroids as far as that goes. Basically anyone that was taking steroids as an athlete, they get greater improvement from their sleep than anything else comparatively. So all those guys that are doing that, their sleep is like still on point. It's one thing you have to worry about is your sleep. So aside from that, what can we do to help the soreness beyond sleep? So you'd hear the traditional advice from a doctor is RICE, which is rest, ice, compression, and elevation. Rest, sleep, relaxing. And I would even include the going through the warm up without the intention of actually working out, just going through the warm up as part of rest. That's active rest. Ice is pretty straightforward. Elevation is just, raising those body parts up, and that again to help blood flow. Compression, that could be something as simple as wearing compression clothing. I wear Under Armour compression gear. It's a shirt and underwear underneath my regular workout clothes, and that just helps me keep me warmed up, gets the blood flowing, prevents chafing, all that good stuff. There are different ways to get compression clothing that it's like actual, like hardcore, requires a prescription to actually get that level of compression. I don't know that you need to go that far. So like, other than I mentioned the going through the warm up, you can do some light cardio. No real goal of intensity or length or miles or anything like that. Just get moving essentially. So if your only activity is going to the gym a half an hour and then sitting on your ass the other hours of the day, that's contributing to you being extra sore. So get up and move, and that will help. So getting the blood flowing. So if your whole body's sore, you need to move your whole body. But if it's like my arms are super sore, your regular cardio, like walking and riding a bike, that's not going to help your arms, is it? So it's going to need to be something like jumping jacks or arm windmills. Just moving your arms around. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. Maybe jump rope. Jump rope's probably a great idea in that case. So just get moving. Beyond that, things like static stretching. Static stretching is where you stretch and you hold it, which is normally not recommended ever before lifting. It's usually something done after lifting. You have things like foam rolling. You can get foam rollers anywhere. You can probably even get them at Walmart now. I have something called a Theracane and the stick. Those kind of allow you to super target your sore spots and kind of roll out the muscles. You probably want to start with some of the easier methods that I mentioned, like make sure you have your sleep on point, get some activity before you start buying things to ease your soreness. Because as I mentioned, the goal of a workout is not to be sore every workout. Once you get used to movements, that's not your gauge of progress. How you feel during the workout, like, is this energizing me? Is it, draining all my energy? Does it feel like a good workout? That type of stuff is what you should be aiming for. And beating your weight, beating your reps, reducing your rest time. Those are the kind of the ways you get an indicator of a good workout, not was I sore afterwards. And that's kind of a holdover from the mainstream fitness industry, that a workout should entirely destroy you and you should be laying in a sweat angel and crying. And no, that's not a good indicator of progress. So if you're always sore after you're consistently working out, then there's something wrong with your workout, and we should probably discuss that. And it could just be that there's an imbalance of stresses. And what I mean by that is weight training, as I mentioned, destroys muscle tissue, which then forces it to be built back better, bigger, stronger. So that's a stress on your body. Dieting is a stress on your body. And those have to fall into a balance of what other stressors you have in your life. The normal stresses of, work and relationships and all that stuff, those are stresses, and they have to be balanced. And the center point of those balances is your sleep. So the more stressors you put your body under, even if they're positive stressors like working out, the more sleep and recovery you need, and the more you're going to feel that calorie deficit. So if that describes you, we need to talk, because that something needs to be adjusted. And unfortunately, that also might mean you need to accept slower progress in exchange for just feeling better in the short term. So please let me know if that's the case, and we'll go from there and discuss that. All right, so this next question is more of a topic, and there's a couple different viewpoints that I want to go through here. And it's related to confidence, social anxiety, and awkwardness in social situations that kind of come up with having been overweight for a significant portion, and then the after effects of that. So this question comes from Brandon, and Brandon said, would you be willing to talk about overcoming anxiety or lack of confidence due to how someone feels about their body? And Brandon mentions that he struggles with this because he knows that he's making improvements. He often has a lot of anxiety and doesn't put himself out there in certain situations socially, because he worries about that people are going to judge him based on his weight. And he's asked if I've ever dealt with this and how I overcame it, if I did have to deal with it. So that's a very complex question, and I'm going to answer it like this, and I'll come back to this. But the important thing here is that my situation is different than Brandon's because I'm at the height of my obesity. I was already married for a couple years. Coming into this where you're trying to lose weight and you're also single, it's a much different story. So some of the same pain points that you're experiencing, Brandon, are a lot different than mine. And I know you know that. I'm just elaborating for other people that are wondering why I'm kind of dancing around this question. But I can say with confidence, pun intended, that being obese for so long basically resulted in my confidence socially and otherwise basically being zero. I had no confidence, and I was an introvert and antisocial, and I avoided social situations because of what you're describing. People would judge me for my weight. And the way I dealt with that at the time was the way most big people do, is that your ego becomes wrapped up in being a big person. You have presence in a room, you're the funny fat guy or fat girl, and that kind of is a mask you put on. So yes, I did that, and once I was no longer the big guy that had the presence in the room, my mask was ripped away, and it was a raw wound that I kind of had to deal with. And I still feel anxiety over that, and it's a work in progress for me. My first hangout, which was 2 years ago at this point, even that, I didn't see anyone's face. I'm talking to this odd looking camera thing, and I had crushing anxiety over that. I just kind of, I'm not even looking at anyone. I still had anxiety over me talking and being out there so much that I was like drenched in sweat and like cemented to my chair. So I can say that much like anything else, having confidence, including social confidence, is a skill. And like any other skill we talk about, it's going to be about trying, failing, picking yourself back up, and learning from that while continuing to move forward. And I know that makes me sound like a broken record, but it's true. But I also realize that's only half the problem, because that's just a sentence that doesn't actually help. So the other missing link there is what things actually add to your confidence. And that's going to be different for everyone. For me, that was weightlifting. So like I mentioned, walk into a room, you're the big guy in the room, you're a presence. That goes away when you start to lose weight. You're no longer the big guy. I mean, you still might be consider yourself fat, but you're not the huge guy anymore, for me at least. So weightlifting helped me recapture some of that confidence, where I was getting stronger. I was losing weight, so I felt better physically. And, I was feeling better about my progress in the gym, my progress in weight loss. My physical appearance started to change. And that kind of bumped up my confidence. Also, being able to buy clothes at stores that I could, never was able to buy them before, did help in that regard. And in the discussion of this, I know you got some advice from other people who were already married that didn't seem too helpful. I'd ask for you to go back and look at that, because I believe it was Joe that was editing his post where he was talking about how as you lose weight, buying certain clothing that you normally wouldn't have bought at your starting weight can actually help boost that confidence too. And I'd like for you to revisit that. Being a dad and a penny pincher, as far as that goes, I just buy clothes from Old Navy, whatever fits and looks okay. That's good enough for me. But I know that if you're single, you have some dating concerns, so that kind of complicates things a little bit there. Anyways, outside of that, the confidence that I gained from weightlifting and my continued progress, that made it easier for me to move forward from those failures and pick myself back up. Or when I'm sure anyone that has had crippling social anxiety can relate, where it's like, you meet someone new, you talk to someone, and then you kind of feel like you said the wrong thing, and then it gets all quiet and awkward, and then you kind of play that over in your head repeatedly, like, God damn it, I'm an idiot. What the hell did I just say? Those people are going to think I'm stupid, or they're going to hate me. And, having that confidence boost from the weightlifting and getting stronger and seeing progress, that kind of lessens the blow of that social anxiety, or at least it did for me. And another factor in boosting that confidence was really, really believing in the process and being in love with the process. I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it forever till the day I die, is that if you love what you're doing, like the idea of like, look, I'm getting stronger in the gym, these movements, I'm not exercising to punish myself for eating food. I'm actually exercising to show off how awesome my body is. Then that becomes like your reason for why you want to eat better food choices, because it fuels your workouts and makes you feel better. That's a positive feedback loop, and that builds confidence in addition to that. So that actual buy-in to the process, that you believe that regardless of what the scale shows or what the measurements show, is that this process itself is a worthy thing, that actually builds confidence outside of the actual weightlifting itself or progress on the scale or weight loss itself. So to me, there's no end to weightlifting or fitness, because I view it as basically regular body maintenance for a human being, much like you would change the oil in your car. So there's no end point to growth for a person. Once you start to get into the growth mindset, in regards to weight loss, you're looking at weight loss as like what you're taking away. But if you switch that to a growth mindset, growth is perpetual. It's forever. You can keep growing. But anything that you feel awkward or bad at, that's a potential for growth. So the things we suck at and we can improve upon, that's where growth happens. You'll never be at 100% confidence in all situations. So it's something that you can work on all the time. In many ways, this is a great parallel for fitness, as it's the same thing. There's always going to be skills that you can improve upon and work on. These are life skills. This isn't, a lot of times I'm a fan of kind of likening fitness to a video game where you can kind of hack the numbers and control what's going on to a degree. But this is a case where this is nothing like a video game. It's like the opposite. Like if you played a video game where you have like strength and wisdom and dexterity attributes, you can max those out and make your character like a certain. With life skills, it's not like that. They're never going to be at 100%. You're never going to be able to achieve a maximum attribute, because there's always room for growth. Every time that someone is the strongest person in the world, that's temporary. There's always going to be someone that's going to come and be better than you at something. So there's always potential for you to grow. And what if you didn't think there was any limit to what you could do? Then you have unlimited potential. I'd ask for you instead to think of things like a garden. You plant the seed for what you want to grow. You tend it, you water it, you nurture it, you pull out the weeds, and you watch it grow. But you constantly have to renew that garden. It's not just you plant stuff and then it just eat whatever it gives, or the flowers or whatever. It doesn't just grow forever on its own. You have to nurture it. You have to tend to it. You have to feed it. You have to water it. You have to take care of it forever, or it goes away. You can't just reach a point where you just leave it alone and it does fine without regular maintenance or care. You can't just, yes, some skills are like riding a bike, but you still have to grow when you grow as a person, because those skills have to adapt with you. So, with that said, that's my point of view from someone that was morbidly obese, lost the weight, and still had to deal with social awkwardness. I've been going to conferences around fitness, and I felt socially awkward. I've even told people like, "Hey, I'm Chuck. Nice to meet you. We actually saw each other the last conference, but I'm kind of socially awkward and was like a deer in headlights last time. So I'm working on that. So if you see me looking like I'm lost, come and talk to me, please." That's kind of like how I started to open, and that took me years, to get to that point. But what I'd like to kind of pivot here, because I know that those of you that are single would appreciate the viewpoint of someone else that's lost weight and does have confidence in social situations. So I turned to my good friend who's single and who has lost about 75 pounds. He's shorter than I am, so he's about 5'7", 5'8". So that's a little bit more significant, based on your height. So I basically sent him the discussion. He looked at it and he typed up a response. And I'm going to basically just go through his answer as written by him. So this is 100% his words, but it is the perspective of someone that has lots of confidence in social situations. After his weight loss, he trained himself to be a musician and actually go up on stage, and does not shy away from being social at all anymore. So with that said, I'm just going to go through what he said as his answer. So here we go. Dating while going through a dramatic life change like refocusing Dramatic life for focusing, like losing weight, is very challenging. Most people want to be seen for the person they're striving to be instead of the person that they currently are at this moment in time. You visualize the physical you that you want to become and hope that you can be seen in the dating world as that ideal person or eventual person. Since we're changing ourselves and may not be happy with how we look or feel, it shouldn't be surprising that our potential dating partners might have a bias against our current physical representation. Confidence does go a long way. When you are comfortable in your own skin, people see that and are attracted to that. All people have self-confidence issues, even the most attractive people. And when someone is confident, others admire and respect that. Being heavy can feel like a failure, and it's hard to feel confident when you feel like you failed yourself. You also can't expect dating prospects to provide you with that confidence. It has to come from within. Online dating is likely the wrong route because you're going to have to settle for a type of partner that the ideal you does not desire. And not only that, sending thoughtful after thoughtful messages that go unanswered is consistently demoralizing. And I'm going to take an aside here. This is generally aimed at males trying online dating. Similar to the way losing weight is, if I want X, I have to do Y, and can be difficult. Sticking to a diet and exercise regime is hard. Regimen is hard, not regime, sorry. But so is approaching single life. You have to talk, you have to mingle, you have to flirt and try to pick up people who that you find attractive, and you will have to be rejected often, and you'll have to learn from that. But once one single rejection becomes insignificant and no different than the rest, you'll start not to care about rejection. And then this actually is the ladder with which you build confidence. So do not seek to date someone that validates you and proves to you that you're worthy. Instead, seek to date because you have a lot to offer someone else and you want to offer that to them. So you will not become the laughing stock of the world for flirting or talking to someone. Then as time goes on and as your physical transformation becomes closer to what you're envisioning, you won't be starting from scratch socially. You'll have built up that confidence from all of those failures, or you'll have an I don't give a shit attitude. And as a larger person, you will only magnify as you personally feel more attractive. So there's a parallel here with fitness where you can't just turn it on one day. You're not just going to arrive at confidence. It's going to be climbing that ladder of failure and learning. And as someone that's been married for a long time, I can see how this would be incredibly difficult. The idea of, if you haven't had a lot of dating context and you are socially awkward and have anxiety over it, that one rejection is going to be soul crushing. So I guess the takeaway message here is that it's the same thing. You have to fail and you have to become comfortable with failure so that you can learn from it. And that confidence is going to come as a result of building from those failures. And basically those short-term failures will lead to short-term successes, which in turn will basically make you incredibly confident. And again, I want to reiterate the point that my friend here was making, was that hardly anyone just has this innate confidence. It's a skill and it's built up over time and it's built up as a result of failure. And I mentioned that I was socially awkward at even going to fitness conferences, and in talking with people, that all these people that I'd seen or known previously was familiar with their work, the presence that they project online was these supremely confident people. And in talking to them, they're just down to earth people, and they also have confidence issues where from afar it looks like they have it all together and they're like, their business is awesome and they're helping all these people, but they also have the same issues that we all do with self-confidence. So this was an actual, I'm really glad you asked this, Brandon. So thank you again. I feel like the conversation on this one isn't over. So I wouldn't mind seeing some more talk about this one. So let's keep that going and see where we go with it. And if you think maybe this would be a good idea for an article, maybe I can convince my friend to collaborate with me on that one. So All right. I think that covers all the pre-submitted questions. So I'm just going to page over and see if I have anyone's asked. No. Okay. Well, that covers it for tonight. I hope everyone has a great evening, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Take care.